Everyone, thank you very much for joining us on the program. A lot has happened in Rivers State today. The president has now declared a state of emergency, and that's our focus for tonight's conversation. Joining me on the program tonight is Akingbolu, is a constitutional lawyer, and also Chino Biago, a senior advocate of Nigeria, joining me for this very critical, very necessary conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, gentlemen. Thank you.
It's a pleasure for having us.
So it's been a long day, but then the president has now declared a state of emergency. Let me start with you, SEN. Do you think all the conditions prescribed by the Constitution were met before that declaration?
Yes, I think so. Section 305, subsection 2 stipulates what conditions the president can make a proclamation of state of emergency. And one of the critical provisions is where there is a threat to public safety and where there's a threat to national security and the economy. And the information, and Rivers State is very critical to Nigeria, and I think the conditions stipulated in 305 of the Constitution, Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, we are satisfied, and the president was maybe in a good state, well advised to stop the what is going on in Rivers State, because everybody is actually sitting on the edge that it may descend into anarchy and break down to public safety. So I think the conditions on 305 were met.
All right. Mr. Akingbolu, let me come to you. Talk to us about the legality of the president's presidential declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State.
Well, I can tell you, as the president is the father and grandfather of everybody in Nigeria, and it is his duty to, and as he has sworn, to defend the Constitution and obey it. And part of it is to ensure that there's security in Nigeria. And with what is happening, just like the learned SEN has rightly pointed out or opined, the conditionalities in Section 305 have been completely met, because there is a serious threat to lives and properties. There is a threat to security, and there is anarchy. Breakdown of law and order is almost imminent. And however, having declared that, it will send the gazette or the notice thereof to the National Assembly, both the Senate and the Reps. Both of them will convene to consider whether they should approve the proclamation of the state of emergency. This is the position of the president has acted properly and appropriately.
So what happens in a situation where the National Assembly, the President of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House of Reps think otherwise?
If they think otherwise, that ends it. It means that the declaration is inchoate. But as it is, I think there is a lacuna in the Constitution. It should have, it's like putting the cart before the horse. I think the provision of Section 305, at least of 3 or thereabout, should have been, that the president will address the Senate first and the House of Reps. When they have approved, then he will now declare. But the Constitution says he will declare first and notify the Assembly, the National Assembly, which shall individually sit. Maybe the President of the Senate will sit, the Reps will sit to approve the proclamation. But I think that is putting the cart before the horse, because he has already appointed an administrator already. So what do we do? But if they disapprove of it, that ends the declaration.
All right. Well, for proper perspective, let's go through what Section 305 says. It says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the President may, by instruments published in the official gazette of the government of the Federation, issue a proclamation of a state of emergency in the Federation or any part thereof. The President shall immediately after the publication transmit copies of the official gazette of the government of the Federation containing the proclamation, including the details of the emergency, to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Reps, which I think Mr. Akingbolu has, detailed for us. But, declaring a state of emergency, SN, this is for you now. Declaring a state of emergency is one thing. Suspending the elected officials in the states is another. Do you think the law permits the President to do both in this case? SN.
Yes, yes, it does. I mean, the law, allows that when there's a state of emergency, it means that the democratic institutions, the elected governance institutions, has broken down, and that's why it's an emergency. So the doctrine of necessity applies, and the president can appoint an interim measure to restore order. Whether it is for 6 months, for 3 months, or period of time, is at the discretion of the president, subject to approval by the National Assembly. Some may argue that 6 months is such a long time to deny Rivers State, who have elected their governor and the House of Reps, the opportunity to be governed by those they elected. But, suspending the elected democratic institutions is part of declaration of state of emergency, and the president had the discretion under Section 305 to set the parameters.
But is that clearly stated in the Constitution? Yes, is it clearly stated in the Constitution, or this is also part of the lacuna Mr. Akingbolu was talking about earlier?
Yes, it is. It's part of the lacuna, and I think the president is actually playing on precedent. This is not the first time Nigerian president will evoke Section 305. We know what happened under Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, when he declared state of emergency in respect to Ekiti State. There are so many instances where this president has exercised the power under Section 305, and nobody has challenged it in court. That he has no powers. He has exercised powers beyond what the Constitution has provided. But I think the point is that in order to close the gap, the National Assembly needs to look closely at Section 305, because declaring state of emergency, just like Mr. Akingbolu has said, without approval from the National Assembly, appears to have given the president a lot of powers, to act in case of emergency. I think there's a need to regulate that power by subjecting it to the National Assembly. I think it's something that the National Assembly could look at through the constitutional review process.
All right, Mr. Akingbolu, let me come back to you. Is 6 months really a long time?
Well, just like the learned speaker said, in the past, I don't think there has been any lesser declaration of emergency. It has already been 6 months in the first instance, which can also be extended. So it's all in a bid to ensure that, okay, normalcy will have returned, reason will have gained dominion over unreasonableness. Because when you look at it, the House of Assembly is at loggerhead with the executive is at loggerhead with the, with the House of Assembly. Nobody seems to understand, one another. So the president, as the father of all, in one forum I have said it, that the president has been unpretentiously, magnanimous. He ought to have declared it even longer than now, but he exercised that restraint because he acted like a father to all. The president has been extremely fair, honestly, to all the parties in Rivers State, because this lawlessness did not start today, it didn't start yesterday, but he called them at a point to settle the issues, just like he did in the case of Ondo State, when the illness of the departed former governor. So he did it and it worked there. One would have thought that it will work in Rivers State, but they pretended for about 1 week or few days, simulated piece of the graveyard, I would call it, and at the end of the day, they returned to their, to their trenches. This is the consequences. I think by the time they come back in 6 months, they will have put the house in order, they will have mended fences, and they will allow peace to reign.
Expectedly. But also, is this latest development, is it enough to, douse the tension in Rivers State? Mr. Akingbolu?
Of course, it is, because now those who are supporting the governor, they have nobody to support again. Those who are supporting the House of Assembly, they have nobody to support again. It's just like somebody who is fighting because of a woman, and the woman traveled abroad in your presence. So who will you be fighting again? So I think with this one, they will calm down. The House of Assembly will not be able to receive salary for 6 months. The commissioners are gone, at least tentatively. The governor is gone, tentatively. This is the same thing for the deputy governor. So I think by now it will be easier for the warring parties to come, to close ranks. Because as it is now, there is nothing to fight for. It is for you to save your life. If you don't save it, you may lose it completely. So, or because the president still has power to extend the 6 months. So they will not want it to happen. I believe, personally speaking for myself, I think they will want to come together, they will want to work together, they want to put the interest of Rivers State, at the topmost gear and ensure that they will start identify as a matter of topmost priority how they can make governance to be effective in Rivers State rather than the individualistic, posture that they maintained before. I think the emergency will go a very long way to assuaging the worrying factors and ensure that peace return to the place anon.
All right. Etienne, let me come to you. We listened to the president, who sounded very disappointed, very upset, in clear terms. How instructive was that broadcast? And does it also serve as a lesson to politicians, so to speak?
I think everybody has been asking the gladiators in Rivers State to find a political solution to this problem. After the Supreme Court judgment, it was final, and Governor Fubara should have known that he has lost out, that he has little or no cards to play after the Supreme Court judgment. Then the House of Assembly know they had all the cards. So they refused to allow him to present the budget. Of course, he cannot spend money from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the state if there's no appropriation law. So without appropriation law, the states will break down because there will be no money to spend to pay salaries and meet other necessities of the state. So if the House of Assembly, then the House of Assembly refused to allow him to present the budget and went on recess. So that is a call for anarchy because the state had broken down. And of course, the governor would not like to spend any money without appropriation law because that would be an impeachable offense. Then the State House Assembly members came back to start impeaching him and even threatened to remove the chief judge, which is illegal. So the events of the last 1 week, clearly shows that the Rivers State actors are not ready to find political solution to the problem. And therefore, I think it's a good intervention, timely intervention by the president, and we commend him for that. But having said that, I think it's a good lesson, like you mentioned, for all Nigerian politicians to know that there are provisions in the Constitution to call to order any polity that is overheated, and that's Section 305. And I think it's important that politicians take note of that. If everything goes right and National Assembly approves it, the House of Reps becomes the legislature of Rivers State, and we'll be able to administer Rivers State from Abuja. And that's a call for order for other politicians to take note that they cannot just do anything and get away with it.
Maybe I should also ask you this question. How popular is the declaration of a state of emergency in a democratic setting? How popular is it?
Frankly, it's meant to be a last resort to prevent breakdown of law and order. And one had expected that the president would have done more than he did in terms of brokering peace and bringing political solution to the problem. Yes, the president has invited the gladiators to a meeting. Yes, the president has, appealed to them, to both the House of Assembly and members and the governor to work together to bring peace. But there's always impression that former Governor Wike, who is in Abuja, is, leading this onslaught. So that impression still remains in the polity. But in order to prevent breakdown of law of order, I think it is important that the president steps in at this time. It is a failure of the political leaders in Rivers State. One had expected that traditional rulers in Rivers State, political leaders in Rivers State, elder statesmen in Rivers State would have gathered around and saved the situation rather than allow it to degenerate. Because if they had started the process of impeachment of the governor, frankly, there were going to be huge threats to public safety. So I think it was timely that the president intervened.
All right, Mr. Akingbolu, let me come to you. Just the same question. How popular is the declaration of a state of emergency in a democratic system of government? Is this the failure of the system?
It is the failure of the system because just like Glenn Etienne has rightly observed that the president has done all he needed to do. What he could have done in a situation like this is to call the warring parties and try to see how they can work together, how they can bring about a lasting peace, which he had done. Unfortunately, they did not listen. They did not act into that, to that advice of his. In fact, they got to Rivers and they started saying, oh, the president was this, the president was that, and so on and so forth. And he was patient since that time, since last year. And he was watching them patiently, like a bat. And now this is what they have foisted on themselves. They can only blame themselves, not anybody. The only people that will say the state of emergency is not well deserving are those who may have one political interest or the other, or personal gains or personal reasons. Because anybody is seeing it, nobody likes it. Even though if you are not from River, you know that there is no peace in River. You know that all is not well with River State, and you know that it is necessary that people enjoy the dividend of the democracy that they are voted for. You understand? And if it is Wike or whoever that they are electing, let Wike leave the governor alone. Let him enjoy his 4 years. You understand? The governor also should know Wike was his master. They should find a way of mending fences so that the grass will not suffer where two elephants are fighting. But I can tell you, majorly, the declaration of emergency in River State is very popular, and it is going to go a long way in assuaging the problems that have been created.
Right. Just before we got to this point, did you think the governor should have gone back to the president at turning point?
Of course. You know, the governor, the president, settled with them, invited all of them to Abuja, the gladiator, the House of Assembly members, the governor, the deputy governor, and tried to mend fences, amongst them. And they pretended as if everything was fine. They went back to Rivers. After 2-3 days, they started again. And when they started this, I think the next thing the governor should have done would have been to go back to the president and say, what you gave us, the assignment you gave us, this is how far, or this was how far we have been able to follow it through, but we have not been able to succeed due to XYZ. Even if it is the minister of FCT that you are suspecting, tell him that, Mr. President, we are suspecting the hands of your minister here. What can you do to help us to solve this problem? Because the governor should have also played the performanship to know that he is a father and grandfather of everybody, every Riverians. So he also should ensure that there is peace and there is no war and that everything goes smooth. But in a situation whereby you elevate your personal interest or political interest beyond the interest of all, this is the kind of consequences you reap, and it has happened.
All right. Expectedly 6 months is a long time for all parties to come to a table. But then, if in 6 months we're still here, if in 6 months no resolutions have been made, all parties are still at loggerheads, whether subtle or loud, what happens next?
What happens next? Okay, it can be extended. The president can extend the time. That is the truth of the matter.
All right. Essay, you may want to react to that as well. What happens next?
Well, 6 months is not really too long in brokering political disputes.
Remember, we're talking about River State here, SAN.
Yeah, well, River State, this political dispute is deep-rooted. Remember, it didn't start yesterday. It started from even Governor Fubara, when he was during the primaries. We all know what happened, how he was thrown up. There are a lot of people who are lined up to be governor of River State, but Fubara just came from nowhere and took the seat. So it's really deep-rooted. And River State is also a complicated society. Remember, we have a lot of close to 20+ ethnic nationalities.
All right, SAN, I may have to pause you here. SAN, kindly hold on. We have to take a break at this moment. And when we come back, we'll continue.